Some retailers may be done selling physical Xbox games. According
Wow.
to, according to GamesIndustry.biz, several European retailers have seemingly stopped selling physical Xbox games. Preservation is a nightmare in the games industry, especially as some 87% of retro games are swiftly vanishing with the passing of time, and many recent games get unceremoniously killed off for reasons. Let me just check OBS. Okay. It seems things may only get worse before they get better, as there are now indications that some European retail stores are no longer stocking their shelves with physical Xbox games due to low sales. During a conversation between GamesIndustry.biz, EIC, James Batchelor, and the site's head, Chris Dring, on a January 30th episode of the Games Industry Microcast, Dring was asked his thoughts on Microsoft's latest round of layoffs of the nearly 2,000 workers cut from the company on January 25th, were folks reportedly responsible for bringing Xbox games to physical retail. During save, Dring gave his 2 cents on the dilemma, stating that several retailers just aren't selling Xbox discs anymore. So I was told by a major publisher just before Christmas that across Europe, several retailers have started just not listing Xbox anymore, Drink said. So they've just stopped stocking Xbox games because Xbox is such a digital console now that the physical performance of Xbox games is really low. And ultimately, when you're selling a console that most people are just downloading games for, it doesn't really benefit the retailer very much. The margin on hardware is often quite small. I wasn't able to corroborate that, Dring continued. I couldn't find which retailers these are, but it was a proper senior European publishing boss that said it to me. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of this is, yeah, Xbox is pushing away from physical, but actually, I don't think physical retailers are going to care. They might sell controllers and things like that, but ultimately, Xbox is so digital. When you think of PC and mobile being the digital dominant, Xbox isn't that far behind anymore. Um, so Kotaku has reached out to Microsoft for comment. While those of us who have grown up with physical copies of major releases being a long established norm may find this potential shift surprising, it also feels like things have been heading this way for some time. Many Xbox games, such as Hi Fi Rush, are digital only for the time being, and some of the console's biggest releases, such as Alan Wake 2 and the upcoming Hellblade 2, Sermon's Saga, are foregoing physical disc for an all digital existence. With reports that Xbox is seemingly planning to gut the disk drives from Series X in a November 2024 refresh, we should probably prepare for fewer box games in the future, and that blows. So let's see if I can pull up comments to see what people think, to see what people have to say about this. Um, while I'm waiting for them to load, what do you think, Dr. Games 101?
And it's not surprising because the average like physical game from Xbox only has not even like 10 megabytes, depends on what game you're buying. For example, it's crazy to do this though. You might sound think I'm crazy and stupid, but I bought a copy of Destiny 2 that's like on sale for like $10 on the Amazon store, right? So I checked the disc, see if I'm going to install it with certain features on it that I can't see in the free to play game. You thought I can't get more for my buck for getting the base game on disc. Well, they only took about not even 25 kilobytes from the disc. Everything else was all online that they install. So it's kind of like, what the fuck, you know? Yeah, even though, yes, it's an online only game, yes, but I was expecting more content, you know, with a base game. Like, yeah, I bought for $10. So, but it was not what I was expected. So,
It's kind of like what they did with Spyro, the Reignited trilogy, and Crash, the Insane trilogy, where
yep.
only the first game was on the disc. You had to download the other two games once you connected to the internet if you wanted all three.
Oh, yeah. Which is
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. I do have comments, so I'm gonna read them. Then I'll give my then I'll give my opinion. Captain Tyler says, this was always the end goal. Xbox tried to rip the band aid off immediately with the Xbox One, and it backfired spectacularly. Sony is going to slowly phase out physical releases as well, with Nintendo being the last holdout until kids only know how to download games. Then they'll be able to have all control over how and when we play games. Give it another 10, 20 years, and they'll start removing sales. Start delisting and removing the ability to download old games so you have to buy new ones. Make games you already paid $80 for unplayable unless you buy a new subscription to it every year. It's all just going to get significantly worse from here on out. Rogue Lady goes, we need to resist it. The backlash to the Xbox starved it off for 2 generations. If the resistance continues, then so will physical. Dr. Stephen Strange goes, give it another 10, 20 years and they'll start removing sales, start delisting, and removing the ability to download old games so you have to buy new ones. Someone tell me, how old is Steam? And CMA Alien 2 goes, Valve isn't a publicly traded company, and one generally decent guy exercises nearly absolute authority over the platform while his focus has never been on maximizing the profits generated by it. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are all publicly traded companies. Their sole focus and priority as publicly traded companies is to maximize their shareholder value. This creates a toxic schism between what's good for the company and what's good for the customers. See if you can spot the difference. Um, I hate to bring this up again because I feel like a broken record,
I
but
understand.
this is why I'm going back to retro. I got Max Payne 1 and 2. I can play those games anytime I want, as long as the disc doesn't get scratched. I can play those games 24/7 if I really want to. Same with Final Fantasy 12. Same with Apocalypse on PlayStation. Uh, and all the physical games I have.
We also have to consider too, Triple J, is that there's also because of physical games can be disc rot on those copies as well too over time. That's what guys have realized too. So that can be also destroyed too over time.
What can?
Physical copies with a disc rot.
Well, disc rot, that's something different. That's just things. Yeah, that's. But the thing is, again, most of these games, not all of them, but most of them, they're so so many were sold when the game first came out that you can just find another one.
Mm-hmm.
If your copy rots, you can always go on eBay, Amazon, Macari, etc., 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 and just find another copy if you have the money. If you don't have the money, then you just have to wait till you do. Um, and there's nothing Microsoft, Nintendo, or Sony can do about that. I can play
You're right.
all the games I want on PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, and
But there's gonna be a time in our period of history of gaming, whether it's 100 years from now or 50 years from now, where most physical copies, no matter where you get them online, no matter where in the world, they will eventually break down and get rotted out. So
well,
you
if it's
know,
100 years, we would be 100. I'd be 136 at that point. So I don't. If it's 100 years, let it happen 100 years from now. 50 years again. That's if I live to see 86.
hmm
Um, that's so. Maybe that would happen, but like I said, these games have been so mass produced. Especially if it's sold well, it's like I said, I'm really not worried about it. And like I said, it's not just those games; it's other games that we haven't even discussed. I mean, look at I mean, I have Toe Jam and All and Panic on Funkatron for Sega Genesis. That game's already 30 years old, and I was streaming it not like a day or two ago.
hmm
So these older games that were like especially on cartridge, they weren't as delicate as games on CD or DVD, starting with the PlayStation 2. So it's disc rot may be a thing, but when you got games that still work like 30, 40, that are 30, 40 years old and they still work, you know, and if it disc rot is a thing, that's gonna hamper this entirely. You know what? I hate to say it. There's always repros, and if reproductions are too expensive, um, then you might have to do emulation.
Yeah, I got emulated games on my computer from for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, so more power to me for play those games or whatever I want to on my PC. But newer games like the PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, those games going to be like, overripe for the time being. But at the same time, once the physical disc is like no longer there, you have digital, and people that emulate the copies of those digital games as well too. But last time I checked, the emulation for those games or systems at least were like basically in the early stages of like emulation.
Well, yeah,
So
but I mean, look at Nintendo emulation and look at PS4 emulation. When the PS4 and the Xbox One and the PS5 and Xbox Series is 40 years old, then look at the emulation. You'll
hmm
see, um, again, the only reason I don't use emulation anymore is my current laptop. When I plugged a PS3 controller into my laptop recognized it, but the emulator didn't. So
okay,
I was stuck using the keyboard. SCP Toolkit used to be a program that would make the emulator recognize my controller. Unfortunately, that program's not supported anymore, so it doesn't help. Um, but like I said, that's the only thing keeping me from the emulation is getting the emulator itself to recognize my controller. I go in the
okay,
control panel with my controller plugged in, my laptop already recognizes it. So
all right.
that's the only thing keeping me from emulation. I mean, on my old laptop that's in my closet that stopped working, I had like I had tons of games. Well, not tons, but I had like a few different dozen games that I could emulate. Like
Okay.
anything PS1 or further back, I was able to emulate whatever I wanted, and I was even
hmm
playing games from like that were only available in Europe.
All right.
So yeah, like I said, it's just worth going back to retro at this moment.
Yeah, I should set up my Super Nintendo, Dreamcast up, play some gameplay games with you guys. Like
Ex-
screw future of gaming.
the future is what we make of it.
Oh yeah.
Look. When I was searching up for a Christmas game, I was also getting DVDs at this point. Like I got season 5 of Supernatural because I haven't had it since my ex kept it after we broke up. Um, uh, I was looking up games, and like I said, I discovered Quackshot starring Donald Duck. I'm like, what is this? I look up a review. It looked like to put it bluntly, it looked like DuckTales on Sega Genesis with Sega
hmm
Genesis graphics. I was like, this looks awesome. $19? Okay, it was a little more expensive depending on what I had left from my budget because I didn't want to go over budget. Little
hmm
did I know what was going to happen after January. But like I said, when next time I do have some money to spend, that Sega Genesis game is going to be one of my first purchases. So
hmm
that's